We are now reconvened in open session. We have no action on closed session items, but we do have a board activity report, although it's really short.
We're on holiday.
We were on ice day.
We're on ice day. All right, our board activity report as of January 22nd. We attended the MLK breakfast, Willow Ridge High School tour, Go Public meeting, First Colony Middle School Career Day, Policy Committee meeting, First Year Teacher Celebration, Sugar Land Cultural Arts Foundation Gala, the recent FBISD Graduate Seminar, and Madden Elementary Science Parade.
Thank you, Ms. Helliger. Do we have any special reports this evening? Mr.
I would like
Rosenthal.
to make a couple comments. So a couple weeks ago, I attended the recent graduate, what do we call it, seminar or something, and it was quite eye-opening. I think I brought this up. I actually had intended to write up a report on it because I took extensive notes, but I just hadn't gotten to it. But there were a couple key takeaways for me. One, the kids that were here you can tell they were going places. Very successful. I was very impressed with many of those students. Couple of the things that came up, I would call them themes. One of the students brought up the term spoon feeding. And it was funny because I had that written down. I was going to ask about that, and they brought that up. And several of them commented on that. And they felt that they were kind of spoon-fed a lot of information, weren't really asked to really dig in and learn things on their own, find things on their own. And the reason they brought that up is because they all said that's not the way things happen in college. And so they had to really learn how to learn kind of all over again. So I think we need to be real cognizant of that. And along those lines, it was kind of ironic because I had heard from a parent a couple days before about they were discussing their student in one of our high schools, and the student had not turned in several grades, but yet the teacher was going to let them do an extra credit and wipe out all that stuff, plus add 10 points to their final grade. And that's not going to help these kids. Okay, it may sound nice because we don't want them to fail a semester, but in the real world, that's not going to happen. So we need to really be cognizant of that as well, and we need to address that either in policy or procedure somewhere. The last takeaway that I got was these students really need to learn how to communicate better. And of course, we all know, they communicate with their thumbs. Okay, that's their generation. But they admitted that they didn't really know how to talk to professors. One of them brought up the fact that they didn't even know how to address a professor. What do they call them? How do they get a hold of them? What do they email them? Do they go to them for help? And so that was, the communication aspect that I heard repeated over and over again was something that's really key. So something for all of us to keep in mind, the administration as well as the board, as we look at our profiles of graduate and strategic planning, just things to, tweak here and there and make sure that, our students really do come out the way we want them to come out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. Thank you for attending, and then thank you for sharing that with the board. Appreciate that. I think we all are in agreement. Did you have something, Mr. Verdean?
I'm going to make a real quick comment. Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal, for that. I wasn't able to make it to that conference, and I wish I would have, because I think it's a wealth of information that we can learn from. I like those points you brought up. This is a small report. I don't really have any extremely strong findings, so to say, but I took the opportunity 2 weeks ago to go to KDISD and visit a few schools with their board president, just with the intentions of just seeing something different and experiencing a different culture, and just wanting to learn, and two different worlds. But there was a few takeaways that I had that I think that we could integrate into what we do. But I'm really proud of Fort Bend ISD. It's kind of one of those things where you go and you see something different, but it just makes you stronger in your beliefs of your organization. And I wanted to thank all of you for all of your hard work, the board and admin, because I'm just so proud of us. And it really showed in the short time that I spent in Katy, which they're a great neighbor, and I think it's a great district for what they do. But Fort Bend ISD is number one.
Thank you, Mr. Verdean. Yes, we are. And we have the trophy to prove it. We're going to get another one pretty soon. Okay, let's go to. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Mr.
I just,
Rice.
Dr. Dupree, I wanted to thank you and Mr. Perez and Ms. Fazzetti and Mr. Sines for getting Willow Ridge High School open. I know we had a workshop, but this is our first board meeting, and it took a lot of work, and I think you replaced all the furniture in Willow Ridge, did you not? So that takes a lot of careful scheduling. It's nerve-wracking, especially doing it over the winter break. So thank you very much. I know everybody moved back in, and they're very happy to be there.
Thank you, Mr. Rice, for making those comments on behalf of the board. Absolutely. Okay, let's move into our consent agenda, and we are going to pull item 11F1D off of the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the consent agenda in its entirety with the exception of 11F1E.
That's D.
D.
11.
D.
We have a motion by Mr. Rice and a second by Mr. George. Do we have discussion? This is James.
I have one question on the calendar. I've noticed in the data that you sent out to us that option 2 of the calendar was preferred by the parents and the students over option 1, and the version that we're considering, I think, is a little bit closer to option 1, is how I read it in the information. So could you tell me what were the aspects of option 2 that the parents and the students seem to like? And are we including those in option 1, or what's the main difference, I guess?
Okay, the main difference between option 1 and option 2 were really around the winter break. That was significant feedback that we received from parents, some staff, and students as well. In option 1, the last day of instruction was on the 21st, so that would make the 24th, that Monday the 24th, the first day of the holiday. And then on option 2, the 19th was the last day, making the 20th the first day of the holiday. So there was a lot of feedback around travel plans and being off a little bit sooner for Christmas break rather than later. And then the difference between those two options and the option that we are recommending.
Just if you could just tell me what the Christmas holiday break is I guess what I'd want to know then.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification. I had heard that feedback also, but then on the end it works out a little bit better for staff to have the 2 weekends there, I think.
And so the calendar that's being proposed has 2 half days on the 20th and 21st, and then the first day being the 24th. But the difference is there are 2 half days on the 20th and 21st, early dismissal on the last day.
Secondary.
For secondary and elementary on the last day, on the 21st. And so that was the one of the main differences is we brought in those early release days, second semester and first semester based on feedback.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion?
Yes.
Mr.
Okay,
Rosenthal.
so now I'm a little confused. Which option is actually on the table here?
The
Because
proposed.
I've heard 1, 2, and then something in between.
Right, so it's the something in between. Mrs. James just asked to see both. It's the same thing that was presented at the workshop. It has not changed.
Okay, can
She
we
just
see-
had questions.
Can we see that, just like in living color, just to make sure that we know?
She just wanted to
exactly?
know what the difference is between option 1 and 2 and had questions on those.
Well, I just noticed that in the breakdown of the data, that option 2 was preferred by the students and parents, so I wanted to understand why. And it sounds like it's because there was a couple of more days before the Christmas Day holiday on the option 2. But it kind of messes up on the other end if we shift that day. So this is sort of the proposed one is sort of a morph.
Well, the only thing it really messes up as far as the start date goes is that it gets moved up one day between the two.
Right, but I think the staff has to come back before.
That has come back the week before, yeah.
Right, so that's why the staff highly preferred option
Option
1
Got it,
over option 2.
got it.
And this kind of, the proposed blends better, so there's a full 2 weeks for the staff. There's 1 professional development day rather than 2, and the kids come back 1 day later. So I think it's good.
We good? Any other discussion?
Good, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hearing none, please vote. Motion passes. All right, we will now take up item 11F1D. May I have a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve item 11F1D as presented.
We have a motion by Mr. Rice and a second by Mr. George. I understand we have a clarification on this item. Dr. Dupree?
Yes, ma'am, Madam President, Dr. Dupree. First of all, I want to apologize that this was not caught earlier, but while reviewing earlier today, I noticed that we had in the uses column for this item, we had bid package 16, Barrington Elementary in Armstrong, shown twice. The total is correct. It was not, so it wasn't deducted twice, but it was shown in there twice. And so I asked that this item be pulled so we could make the correction before we took a vote on this item.
So the items were listed twice, but it did not affect the totals that we saw.
And that is correct.
Okay. Do we have questions on this? Hearing none, please vote. Motion passes. We have no action items tonight, so we will now review future board meeting agenda items. Dr. Dupree.
Yes, ma'am. On February, we'll be doing the college and career readiness update at the, I think it's a listening tour on February 12th. So we'll be doing that. And then on the regular board meeting, we'll be doing the annual demographic update, our annual student enrollment review, as well as a facilities master planning update. What you'll notice is a recurring theme of every month now, we're going to be doing the facilities master planning update. And there's also going to be a handful of policies on the agenda in February, as you're seeing most months, as well as a number of kind of, I guess, section, what's the word I'm looking for? It's phase 3 of the 2014 bond program. We've also provided some longer term look throughout the spring so you can see upcoming reports, and we'll be revising that as we move forward. But most of the work is going to be focused on budget and the facilities master planning, as well as some key management oversight reports in the spring.
Thank you, Dr. Dupree. Do we have questions or comments from the trustees? Ms. Helliger? Nope. Okay. I'm ready.
I move that we adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Boys and ready.
8 was my goal tonight.